At some point in your golfing life, you will have either used or seen a plane mate. I'm going to show you the pitfalls and how you could improve how to apply this particular training aid, but also change your thinking behind it. I'll show you a couple of tricks and get you playing the golf of your dreams. Having spent almost 10 years working on the DP World Tour, I've spent an ungodly amount of time on golf ranges around some very special golfers. And if you've ever been to a tour event, you will have watched them strike the ball like nothing you've ever seen before. And the divot pattern that they produce as the best players in the world is probably a little bit different to what you'll see down at your local range. Now, invariably, the local range will have divots deeper than anything you'll have seen before, and you'll be hearing golf clubs strike the mat or strike the grass, and these hugely deep divots are a real waste of energy, because the golf club, whilst the golfer in his right mind is thinking, I need to take a divot, is actually producing an angle of attack that in some cases is pretty light. And of course, before you know it, when you've got some misstriking going on, you can really go down a dark hole. Today I want to speak in depth about how to create some angle of attack, but at the same time making this angle of attack feel like you are sweeping the golf ball, which will be a very different sensation that you have had when you've been down the range working on some divots, angle of attacks, ball compression, all of those ingredients that you link with good striking. We've seen enough swing aids on the market, and one that you have seen a lot of is this one here. Tommy Fleetwood most notably uses it extensively, and I want to give you some insight into A, why this probably won't have ever worked for you, and B, if you have got one, how it may work a little bit better for you in the future. But equally, I've also got an old club shaft that I believe is going to be a far better training aid to improve your ball striking. Let's get into it. Those of you that have watched Tommy Fleetwood hit golf balls, he is always working on trying to get the golf club head and handle delivering back down this line, so that the club, as close as it can do, is returning back into an impact condition very similar to that of how he's set up to the golf ball. This is all well and good, and it's a fantastic idea. The most common flaw that you'll probably end up seeing on the back of using one of these is actually more of an over-the-top outside in sensation, because you're so scared of hitting this cane. The problem we have, and I talk about it so often in my videos, is the light end and the heavy end. To move the club head, which is only being tracked by this device, over the top of this plane, is by feeling like I move the handle forwards. Now, of course, the more I feel like I'm trying to get the club head over this cane, but very close to this cane, of course, the worrying situation where you might actually crash into it will really overpower you, and it doesn't take much for you to start crashing into this cane. What we're looking for is the head to swing down, but what we often forget about is where the handle needs to go. The idea that the club head can swing down this cane line and strike the golf ball straight really is a magical one, and it's what I believe to be so fictitious and won't work for 99.9% of golfers out there, because it's really causing you issues with how you're going to feel that head miss this cane by virtue of where you're going to try and push the handle. But not only that, when you get up to the top of the golf swing, if you haven't got this shaft pitched in the right manner to give yourself the opportunity to move that club head down that cane line, you're really going to find some problems. So how do we rectify it? How do we get better at using an implement like this? I really want you to picture a secondary cane. The secondary cane is over here. Let me get one. The secondary cane is now matched up to the primary cane. And what I want you to see and feel is that this, if you like, pane of glass, and I know there's going to be some Hogan references here, but this is different. Imagine that this is a pane of glass. What you're trying to do is make your handle stay in that pane of glass and make your club head stay outside of that pane of glass. So with that in mind, with that vision, that visual, I'll cast that cane aside. And we now set ourselves up. You can see that as I move this golf club down into delivery, I can move the club head and shaft away from that cane line by moving the handle out. And you can see that the club head and shaft will have a greater opportunity of missing this cane. The reality is what this then does is hitches up your circle. We go from a circle that is pitched like so to a circle that's pitched like this when the handle is lifted up, you're missing the cane and hitting a shot. All of a sudden, you've now got two very different pitches of swings, even though you've missed this back cane here. So I've got a much better swing aid that is a fraction of the price that's going to get you to feel exactly what this needs to create, but on a different plane. So I've now got myself my broken club shaft, and there's a T on the top of it. That's going to come in handy in a little while, so stay tuned for that. Now the visualization that I need you to have here is the equivalent to this planemate angled like so. So imagine that the planemate is pitched up from down on this angle. So this cane here is your shaft pitch. Now the base of the swing, which is this one in my left hand here, is now going to sit above the top of this club shaft. So all I'm simply doing is I'm keeping the relationship of the club shaft to my spine at 90 degrees. Here I am. Now I'm keeping the relationship to 90 degrees. Shaft to my spine. Now what's all of a sudden happened is that club head is now putting energy up into my grip. And because it's putting energy up into my grip, I'm immediately feeling my shoulders loaded. I put the club head on the floor, I feel nothing. Now, when I put the club shaft above, I'm thinking that this point here, outside of the club head, is the ground. This may be complicated, but I need to explain, because when you see it for what it truly is, this golf swing, it will make 2025 the best golfing year you have ever had. If you're finding my content useful, my pursuit to get to 100K in 2025, please subscribe while you're here. It would really be appreciated. So the club head is up. I'm now feeling it in the pad of my grip. The pad of my grip, which is why the grip series videos is so essential for you having the correct grip. Now as I start to move this golf club around me, my handle can immediately feel like it's going to track inside. The handle is pressured down, the club head is still at the same height as my handle. Exactly the same feeling as I'm sensing here. Now, when I start to take this golf club back, and I'm keeping my arms on the same plane. I'm not having any arm lift. There's the arm lift. There's the arm lift. Can you see? There's the lower plane, there's the upper plane. And everyone's different. Everyone's got a different amount of arm lift. So this arm lift is then going to have a good sensation of what's going on with the head. So I move the handle around. I now lift the handle up. Can you now see, if I lift the handle up, can you see how the club shaft and head should almost feel like they go in an opposite direction. So then when you start to work the handle in and we start to lift this club handle up, can you see how it would immediately eradicate a crossed over club shaft at the top? Now, when I get the club shaft at the top of my backswing on this pitch and plane, which is just a stood up version of this pitch and plane, I move the club around me, I lift my arms up. Now look at how this club shaft is still pitched towards the high tee, but on an elevated plane. So this club shaft is pitched up here, above the ball. If I then do exactly the same, this club shaft is now pitched above the ball and outwards. It's not pointing at the golf ball. Absolute garbage. We don't want that shaft pointing at the golf ball at any point in the backswing. The minute that arm lift is encouraged, that club head shaft must not point at the ball line. So I've got my club now around me and it's lifted up. At this point, I can really feel how this right shoulder's loading. Now here's the skill. Here is the skill, the downswing. And the part that this plane mate is never going to give you. It is how you manage the light end and the heavy end. And so when you now start to pull this club forwards and the arm pitch lowers down, look how when the arm pitch lowers down, the club head swings over and starts to line the loft back up. Pressure down, club head swinging. Pressure down, club head swinging. Forwards, 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 pressure down, club head swinging. Now look how I can get the handle feeling like it's working down inside the plane mate, and the club head can stay above the plane mate, which is probably a very different sensation that you've ever had to missing the cane back here with the plane mate. So getting that handle to feel like it can get in this pane of glass that I wanted you to recognize down through strike to allow that club to now track down the plane mate, up the plane mate, but with the handle back underneath it. So there's the handle pressure. Now, when you get the ball up on this high tee, this sensation of pulling it forwards and now getting the handle lower than the high tee for the club head to swing above it puts energy in the butt of your golf club, gets the club head up and swinging around. So, get rid of this nonsense and get the high tee out, which is all you need. And if you've ever seen a trick shot show where the golf ball is on a high tee and someone says, "Come up here, sir, let's see you hit one," and they are so used to the handle going low to high that the club head drops in and smashes into the club, it's because they're not used to feeling how you can make the pressure in the handle go down, get the pressure point in the left hand, make the club head swing above that left hand and move around, we're so conditioned to believing that we've got to go inside, up. Don't get me started on that. So, high tee, in, there's the arm lift. I'm going to move it forwards, I'm going to move the handle down, swing the golf club around. There's the arm lift, so the handle goes in. There's the arm lift, there's the force forwards. There's the handle down and the club head swinging. That's what I'm going to sense as a golfer when I'm moving around the golf ball to start to deliver that angle of attack down and a square path. And so at the top of the show, I said to you about feeling an angle of attack that could feel swept and not dug. So when I'm feeling the golf club handle work down, can you see how the head is much higher at this point? Handle forwards, handle down, the head is much higher at this point. Now, because the head is much higher at this point, that angle of descent is far greater. And at that point, I can now feel like the club will sweep at the bottom and it will still give you a strong amount of angle of attack. Let's take the tee away. What? What did I see you say? Hit one off the high tee, Stuart. Well, if that's what you want, my friends. This is just a balancing act of allowing the pressure of the handle and the swing moment of the head to control the height at which the head stays at. So if you've got the sensation of feeling like you can get the handle lower, so you can pull it forwards, get the handle lower, get the club head swinging above, you'll be able to simply get that club head to take the ball off the top of the tee, which will give you the sensation that this grip is really having to oppose the pull of that head to the floor. So it's really very simple, takes a little bit of practice, but now all of a sudden, this sensation of how that club handle can work down, there's the club head up. Now the sensation of feeling like it's swept will all of a sudden give you a much, much cleaner sensation of strike, but actually your angle of attack will increase because all of the time you're making that handle sit underneath you more, it's hoisting the head up, which is making the angle of attack stronger. And it really doesn't suddenly feel like you're having to jam the handle forwards in an effort to make this angle of attack down. It's a very different sensation. But I wanted to touch a point on a training aid that is so prevalent on the ranges of the DP World Tour, and a lot of guys that will have tried it won't have worked for them. So get yourself a broken club shaft, stick it in a box, pop a little pink Castle T. If you're tired of paying too much for your premium leather golf gloves, head over to gxgolfgloves.com. These are gloves trusted by tour players and elite amateurs alike. Use my code GOODCOACHING to receive 10% off your next order. Go try them out. You won't be disappointed. On the top of it and get yourself clipping away. Hopefully that's been of some use. It's been a slightly longer video today and there's been a little bit more explanation going on. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for being with me. And that, my friends, is good coaching.